queridos millennials! Começando agora mais um Fale por Você. Hoje recebendo um convidado internacional. Ele é jornalista, co-host do programa Odd Couple na Fox Sports e também já teve passagem pela ESPN norte-americana. Trabalhou com grandes nomes como Stephen A. Smith e Skip Bayless. Estou falando de Rob Parker. Rob Parker também já se envolveu em polêmicas. A maior delas, que vamos abordar nessa entrevista, foi com o ex-jogador de futebol americano da NFL, Robert Griffin III, quando o acusou de não ser negro o suficiente ou não se envolver com as importantes causas raciais. O episódio rendeu uma suspensão e, posteriormente, a demissão de Rob da ESPN. Rob Parker foi o primeiro colunista negro da imprensa de Detroit. Recentemente, foi eleito para o Hall da Fama da National Association of Black Journalists. Ele também é um dos poucos que tem o poder de voto para o Hall da Fama do beisebol. Deixe seu like, se inscreva no canal e vamos lá falar com ele.
He trying to act like he's sleeping up in here. He about to get it. But I'm going to give him some props. He was right. He predicted the Raptors in 6. He wants to stick out his chest and say, no KD, no title.
That's right.
No, hold on.
I'm awake now.
No.
I'm awake now.
Just like you.
Hello? Kwame, is this on? Get some new material.
Hello? Is this on? Is this on? Oh my God. Today we have the honor and the pleasure to receive the great, the one and only Rob Parker.
Rob Parker.
Thank you for your time, Rob.
Tony, thank you, man. Very nice. I see you got the little Rob Parker. Very nice.
Before we start, I need to get something out of the way, something out of my chest. I'm going to state some facts here, and then I want to hear your opinion,
Okay.
The MVP with most final losses in the history, the biggest superstar to first fail with USA, not once, but twice, with 2 bronzes, the biggest meltdown in the finals history. Every milestone he achieved was with a loss, and most of legends said he lacked the killer instinct. Rob Parker, you wrote yourself a column about how LeBron cheated the game, and you said he's the worst leader of all time.
Okay. LOT, the worst leader of all time. That's
Stop it, Rob. Stop it.
So how in the world you still put him number 2 just behind MJ?
Here's the reason why I put him number 2 is the longevity of his career and just the mass numbers. I mean, he is the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, right? I mean, that's just a fact. And he has been to 10 NBA finals, and he's won 4. And while I still think he's the finals failure of all time, as far as a former MVP who has lost 6 times in the NBA finals, he is. I still think when you put all of his numbers and accolades, it's almost impossible not to look at him behind Michael Jordan, who, of course, was 6-0 in the NBA finals, won the scoring title 10 years in a row, and all the other accolades that Michael Jordan has. But LeBron James has compiled numbers, no matter how he's done it, by longevity, stacking his teams, whatever. It's hard to poo-poo or discount those numbers.
Okay, we can discuss this the whole show, but let's move on and talk about yourself.
Who do you have number 2? Kobe Bryant?
No, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I have MJ number 1, Kareem 2, and I have LeBron number 6. I have Kobe, Magic, and Bird ahead of him.
Okay, I mean, Kareem is definitely somebody you could have an argument with and about his career. But, like I said, LeBron is now the all-time leading scorer, and it's hard to discount that.
Okay. I searched that you had journalism in your head since you're 7 years old, and later you became the first Black columnist of Detroit Press, and recently you got inducted into the National Association of Black Journalists. How do you feel looking back to this journey, and what kind of adversities that you had to face?
You know what? you know, when you get started, you're just a kid with a dream, and you don't even realize how tough the road is and how few people who look like you travel down that path. So I was just a naive kid who was like, I used to watch this old TV show called The Odd Couple. Jack Klugman was Oscar Madison, and Tony Randall was Felix Unger. Oscar was a sports writer, and Felix was a photographer, and they lived together. They were divorced. And I looked at that and I said, man, Oscar Madison has the greatest job in the world. He gets to cover sports, travel all over the country, eat free food on a company dime. I'm like, that's the job I want. And I had a teacher when I was in second grade who said to me one day, out of nowhere, she pulled me aside from the class and she said, Robert, when you grow up, you should be a writer. Imagine that, a 7-year-old, a teacher telling you that in second grade. I don't know what I could have written, you know what I mean, for her to say that to me at that time. But that stuck. I put it in the back of my head. And as I went on with life, that's what I decided to do. And last summer, the National Association of Black Journalists inducted me into the Hall of Fame, which was just an unbelievable honor at 59 years old, with still a lot of career to go. They thought I was worthy. And, you know, I was told I was a unanimous choice. And a lot of it had to do with, you know, not only groundbreaking, being the first Black sports columnist at the Detroit Free Press. The paper was 161 years old when they hired me. And, you know, Detroit is a Black city. Imagine there was no Black person who had a sports column all those years. Also being the first Black writer to cover the Cincinnati Reds. As you know, the Cincinnati Reds are the first professional team in the United States. So that was an honor. I was the first person ever hired on Detroit's first all sports station. So a lot of those things, you know, played into my selection. But the biggest thing I believe is my mentorship. And I've mentored over 50 or 60 people in journalism. And I'm not dropping names, but I think, you know, Stephen A. was one of them. He was one of my first mentees, and was looking for an opportunity and trying to break into the business. And he has all the talent in the world. I'm not taking credit for his talent, but he reached out to me, and I was able to help him maneuver early on in his career. And look, he's blossomed into the biggest sports voice in America.
Yes, I want to talk about that. You were one of the first pioneers of these debate shows. You know, you were a part of the Cold Pizza. You were part of First Take, then with the Fox Undisputed, now with the Odd Couple. How was with work with all these shows, and the difference to work with Stephen A., Skip Bayless, Chris Broussard? Where did you feel most comfortable expressing your opinions?
Yeah, you know what? I do feel like I'm a part of that whole genre. And when it got started, Cold Pizza was in New York, and I remember that. Here's a story most people don't even know. It's funny. I actually tried out with Woody Page. Woody Page was the guy first hired to be on Cold Pizza to do this debate segment. So I tried out with Woody Page. After the tryout, Woody Page said to me, he said, you know, they brought in about 5 or 6 guys, and you by far was the best guy in the tryout. And then they called me and said, hey, I was working in Detroit. They said, would you be interested in moving to New York? So I thought, oh my God, I might get this job. I'm like, absolutely. You know, I'm from New York originally. The chance to be on a national show doing a debate, I was excited. They said, we'll call you in next week. And next week went by, 2 weeks went by. And then all of a sudden I saw a story that Skip Bayless had been hired to work with Woody. But then I did wind up, you know, being a part of that show. And I think the early days of First Take, when I was on with Skip a lot, I think that was probably the golden age of First Take, because it was really hard to get on. And it was very hard to get on First Take back then. I mean, it was just, we talked about a lot of different topics, not the same 2 or 3 topics all the time. And a lot of people were paying attention. There weren't many other shows doing that debate format. We used to always be in studio facing each other. You know, now everybody's on satellite. It just doesn't have the same, to me, appeal as if when you have a debate with your buddy or your friend, you're usually in a sports bar or somewhere where you're face to face, or the barbershop or somewhere like that. That's sports debate, not on television screens.
And you said about New York, most people think you're from Detroit, but you're from New York, and you're talking here definitely with the most hard rock Knicks fan here in Brazil. New York.
Oh wow, Knicks. I see you with the shirt on.
Yeah. Did you go to the Garden as a kid, as a teenager? How's your relationship with your sports in New York?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I was a big sports fan, and got a chance. I can remember my first Knicks game. My uncle took me with some of his friends. I'll never forget what it was like. They had great seats. We were down near the floor. I was just mesmerized by it. And same thing, I used to go to Shea Stadium, take the number 7 train with my friends. Back then, let me tell you, Tony, how cheap it was, back in the 70s to go to a ball game. You could get, for $5, train and bus fare to the stadium, ticket to the game, a hot dog and a drink, and $5. a scorecard, right? And I would have 50 cents change left over. It was $4.50. $4. The ticket was $1.50.
How much is now for all this package? How much?
Oh, that's got to be probably $150. You know what I mean? Or over $100 for sure. But that's what it was like back then. And my friends and I would go to the games. So those were great times. I was the biggest Jet fan as a kid as well. I love football. I used to run a gambling betting slips in high school. My mom, very religious person, she's passed. And when we would go to church on Sundays during football season, I would ask her, I said, Mom, can I leave? I want to see the kickoff. I don't want to come in on the game after it starts. You know what I mean? From church. And, I did great in school. I always went to school with no problem. So she would let me leave. We were living within walking distance of our church. So, 5 or 10 minutes before 1 o'clock kickoff, I would look over at her and go, and she would go, yeah, go ahead, and let me leave church early so I could see the kickoff. And I worked at a children's shoe store, Stride Right, at the Queen Center Mall in New York. And my boss, Shelly Zimmerman, he got it. I was a 16, 17-year-old kid, and I told Shelly, I said, Shelly, I can't work on Sundays at the mall. He's like, why not? I said, football season. I got to watch the games. I just can't. I can't work on Sundays. Not how many 17-year-old kids are telling their bosses that they're not going to work on a Sunday at a mall, where that's Saturday and Sundays are their busy days. And those 4 months during football season, he allowed me not to work on Sundays. I said, I'll work Sundays the rest of the year, but those, 16 weeks, I can't work. And that's how much of a fan I was of football, baseball, and basketball. And hockey, I also enjoyed as a kid. I watched a lot of games. And when I was in high school, the Islanders won 4 straight Stanley Cups. So I knew all the players. I used to listen to the games on radio and television. I loved hockey at that time in the 80s. And one of the reasons I think I got the job in Detroit at the Free Press was Detroit, as you know, is called Hockey Town. And when I went for the interview, we started talking about they're looking for a general columnist. They need somebody who can go to football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. And I told them, once I gave them who the backup goaltender of the New York Islanders was, I think that they realized this guy actually follows hockey. Nobody knows who the backup goaltender is, but I knew who it was. It was Glenn Chico Resch to Billy Smith, who was the main goaltender. And they were impressed by that. I think that landed me the job. So I was always thankful of knowing all the sports, enjoying all the sports, and watching as much as I could.
But clearly your passion is baseball, right? We have
100%.
Yes. We have some questions from our fans here. We got Enrique Lopez from São Paulo. We got Quinn Watson from Boston and Jay Vermillion from Oklahoma. First, how did you become a Hall of Fame voter for baseball?
So when you get into this and you become a writer, you have to cover Major League Baseball for 10 straight years. You get a baseball writer's card. I started, my card number was like 867. That means there are 866 people who are ahead of you in line who cover more baseball than you, right? As you go along, your number decreases. I'm like now in the 60s, like 65. It was 867. So that means only 64 people have covered more baseball in the United States than me at this point. I'm not looking forward to being number one. You know, I don't want to be number one, but 65 is cool. And after you cover baseball for 10 straight years, you get a Hall of Fame vote and you're allowed to vote for the Baseball Hall of Fame. It's my most prized possession. I don't have any kids. I'm divorced, no kids. So that Baseball Hall of Fame vote is my most prized possession on this earth.
Another question is how the pitch clock is affecting the game if the MLB will keep in the future.
I was against it in the beginning because I thought it was something that a mechanism they were trying to appease people who don't love baseball. Like when I go to a game, I never worried about the time. If it went long, I just got up and left and listened to the rest on the radio. So this whole push to make the game go faster. And then last year, I went to a Milwaukee Brewers afternoon game at like 12:05. The game ended in 2 hours and 5 minutes. It was entertaining. There was no dead time. When it was all over, it's like 2:10 in the afternoon. And I was like, did we even go to the game? It was so fast, you know, and it moved along. And it hasn't taken away the essence of the game or bastardized it. So I've grown to like it. And I don't think it's going anywhere. I think baseball loves the idea that the games move along and you take away the dead time. And you remember one long ago where a manager would come in and bring in 5 different pitchers to pitch to one batter each. It takes time to warm up, have them warm up on the mound. And before you know it, that's 40 minutes to get through an inning, 30 minutes to get through an inning. And now you can't do that. So it's been good for baseball. The numbers are up, the ratings are up, the digital imprints are up, social media hits are up for the younger people. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, so let's move on. We're heading to the final part of our talk. You got some controversies in your career. You know, in my opinion, that's why you're so good. You know, I can't stand a plain commentator. You know, need to have some sauce, some juice. You know, in your takes. But do you regret any of the controversies that you have? Do you wouldn't do some of them?
I gotta be honest. I say no. I mean, obviously the RG3 thing wound up being a big deal and the national story and Rod Marinelli with the Lions or whatever. But to this day, I really don't believe it was the end of the world or I did something so awful. People could disagree with my opinion and not like the tack that I took, but I don't think it was ever mean-spirited. I thought it was a way as a columnist, I always felt like I had a poetic license to be colorful and add some context and creativity to the conversation, not a news reporter who's just writing a basic, fact-based story. It's a column or a commentary. So, I can sit here and say, yeah, I wish I would have never did either one of them, but I'm happy where I am in life, happy with my career, thrilled to be in the NABJ Hall of Fame, thrilled to be in my high school Hall of Fame, Martin Van Buren High School in Queens Village. I mean, and there are a couple other things that are out there that potentially could happen for me. So I think I made a difference, even with a couple of missteps. I don't think anybody's perfect. If you have a perfect career where you do not disturb or bother or upset anyone, you probably haven't done anything in your career. It just doesn't work like that. So I'm happy with where I am. The lumps make you stronger, make you different. So you shouldn't shy away from being across the grain or doing something different. I think people who live that life aren't fulfilled.
Okay. And what's up with the recently beef with the Gilbert Arenas? What is that all about?
Gilbert Arenas he doesn't like that I when he was making fun of the African basketball team that almost beat the United States in the Olympics. I just thought his jokes were in poor taste, stereotypical, that the Africans, Sudanese didn't have shoes and, you know what I mean? And all this stuff when these guys had all played in the United States and played at major colleges. It was just old. It was tired. So, you know, a lot of guys are afraid to push back on these athletes. I'm not. I'm fine with it. If Gilbert Arenas wants to talk about me every day for 2 months, let it be. I must have gotten under his skin because most of the time, if somebody says something and you take it with a grain of salt, you wouldn't even mention it. So it had to affect him in some way, which is fine.
Okay. Before letting you out of here, you need to go to a game, to ballpark. In Brazil here, we all about soccer. You know, I hate to call soccer. You know, it's
football, right?
Yeah,
I've been to Brazil, and
really?
What's the name of it? Yeah, well, I've been to Brazil. Yeah, back in the '90s, I went, and then it was a long time ago in the '90s.
To work or to travel?
Yeah, well, just for travel, just for vacation. And I remember we went. I think we stopped in Sao Paulo, right?
It's right here in Sao Paulo.
Yeah. But that was like the stopover. But I was in the capital.
Brasilia, Rio.
Rio. I'm sorry, I went to Rio.
Yeah, Rio.
And I had a great time. And I remember going through.
It's beautiful.
To the soccer stadium. What's the soccer stadium?
Maracanã.
That holds 200,000 people.
Maracanã, yeah. Maracanã.
So I got to see that. I couldn't believe it. It was amazing.
You need to come back.
Yeah, I do. It was a long time ago. I need to come back. I enjoyed my trip there. I don't know. I think you know I'm a world traveler. I've been to all 7 continents. I've been to Antarctica, Australia, everywhere. And I love to travel. I love to see new things and different things. I even went whitewater rafting in Argentina, and I can't even swim.
Amazing.
So that tells you something.
Yeah. We're supposed to do this a few months back in LA, but I was not feeling well. So we need to do this in Brazil now, in Rio or Sao Paulo.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome. Let's do it. I appreciate you, Tony, reaching out to me, and I'm sad that we didn't get to meet in LA. I'm glad you're well and everything else, and continued success and good luck with your.
But I need one last opinion from you. I was talking about soccer, talking about football, because World Cup is coming another time to United States. 2026. Do you think we'll ever catch up in the United States? I don't think so. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they've been talking about soccer for 40 years, and I grew up in New York when the New York Cosmos played there. And they had Pele, Franz Beckenbauer, Giorgio Canaglia. I mean, go look it up. 3 of the greatest soccer players were all on the same team playing for the NASL, the North American Soccer League back in the 70s. And people told me, oh, yeah, football, soccer is going to catch on and be bigger than football and baseball. And I just don't think so. The United States, they're in love with the sports that they have. Soccer's tried for a long time. Yeah, it's a cultural thing. 100%. 100%.
Rob, thank you for your time. That was an honor, a pleasure. And if you want to talk about any of other business, you have a barber shop, you got MLB Bro going on, you got a all black radio. If you want to talk, feel free to talk about anything you want.
Yeah, I would say check out MLBBro.com, please, where we cover black and brown major leaguers. Very proud of it. This is our 4th year. Next year will be year 5. We have a partnership with Major League Baseball. So if you got a chance, check out the site. Very proud of it. It's MLBBro.com. And again, thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. See you. Bye-bye.